Hey everyone, it's Rod Santomassimo with the Massimo Show. And boy, do we have a timely topic for you today. And the topic is crisis. But more importantly, how to handle it, well, how to manage it. Well, we'll see if that's the case. But the best part is we have an expert. In fact, we have Melissa Agnes. She is recognized globally as an expert thought leader and visionary in the field of crisis management. Now, Melissa has worked with global players, including NATO, the Pentagon, Department of Defense, Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Defense, financial firms, tech firms, healthcare organizations, and more and more and more. She's also the author of Crisis Ready, Building an Invincible Brand in an Uncertain World, ranked among the leading crisis management books of all time. And the book has been named as one of the top 10 business books by Forbes in 2018.
Hi, this is Rod Santomassimo, and welcome to The Massimo Show. The objective of The Massimo Show is to share how you can maximize your personal, professional margin. That's right, let's make more money in less time. Let's turn chaos into clarity, confusion into confidence, and income into real wealth. Along with sharing my insight on how I grew a multi-million-dollar professional business, we're going to bring you the expert advice from a variety of authors, consultants, and thought leaders who will provide the tools you need to maximize your own personal and professional margin. Welcome to The Massimo Show.
Melissa, welcome to The Massimo Show.
Thank you for having me. I'm happy to be here.
Oh, we're thrilled to have you. So, Melissa, you're not going to like this. We might go to high school crisis first. So, back when you were in Montreal, way back when in high school, for you, not so far back when, but tell us about Melissa in high school. Where were you born? Where were you raised? What were your passions, if any, during high school?
Born and raised Montreal, lived in Montreal, traveled the world when I grew up, but lived in Montreal my whole life until New York. Passions in high school. I think my passion in high school was more just trying to figure myself out. And I was very passionate about getting out of the house and becoming an adult and leading my own life.
Well, congratulations, you succeeded.
I seem to have, yeah.
So, why crisis? What was the pull towards crisis? Were you in a crisis, or what was it about crisis that you realized there was something that needed to be communicated, shared, managed, taught? How did you become an expert in crisis?
So back in how I became it, and to answer that question, because there's like two phases, I think, or episodes of that question. The first, to answer it specifically, is when I started in this field over a decade ago, about 12, 13 years ago now, nobody was talking about the change that technology was bringing to the world and what that meant for business in potential risk. So I saw the risk that social media, the real-time news cycle, the fact that every single consumer had a voice and could raise that voice against brands. I saw the risk. I didn't understand why nobody was talking about it at the time. And I also saw how if we confront the risk, mitigate the risk, all of a sudden we have this unprecedented opportunity for connection and communication in times of crisis that can do wonders for the organization and its business, its brand value, all of it. So long story short, started by doing so much homework. Once I kind of had that epiphany, I realized that crisis management was a thing. Before that, I was a brand strategist and an entrepreneur and just kind of finding my way. And when I realized this, I spent about a year studying everything that I could on the subject because it just kind of fed the wiring of how I'm made. It really, really resonated with me. And I continued to get frustrated with the fact that nobody was talking about the way that the world is today, not the way that the world was yesterday. And so I remember turning to my business partner at the time and saying, there's something here. All of a sudden, we had a client. We had just launched their website. They became in crisis. They called us because it started on Twitter, and they related Twitter with website because it was digital and just happened to pick up the phone and call me. And within a half an hour, we had, their investors getting the right information. We had the media correcting their story. We had everything flowing the way that it needed to, even though we needed to kind of rewire the communication strategy because their investors and their stakeholders weren't online yet. And so, long story short, the president of the company called me the next day and said, not only did their unit price, their stock price not go down from the day before, but it had actually gone up by a cent. And that was a direct result of how we managed the incident. And that was my oh my goodness, I can serve. This is what I'm supposed to do. And so I was young. I had no experience. I had no network in the industry. And so what I did was I had a lot of ideas. I had a lot of frustration. I had a lot of questions that I felt that I could lend a solution to and bring other people to build upon that. So I started a blog. I blogged 5 days a week for several years. It turned into a blog and a podcast and videos and collaborations and amazing clients and a great career that today I'm building something new out of it.
That is an incredible story that you had an opportunity, you were able to serve and solve, which is fantastic. But then you realized there's something here. And then you started blogging. Was it specifically about brand crisis? What would you say you're an expert in crisis? Is it brand crisis that is your passion, your forte? Is that the element, the segment of crisis?
Yeah, I used to say it's anything that touches bottom line and reputation. They go hand in hand. I'm really focused. My passion is communication and understanding emotion and the deep-seated kind of root causes of things from the emotional aspect or the human aspect. It goes to brand crisis. And then the Crisis Ready Institute, which is the company I founded last year, is kind of the second evolution of my career. Now we're very much well-rounded with being able to have specific strategic expertise in all aspects of what's under the umbrella of being crisis ready.
Right. There's financial crisis, there's political crisis, there's social crisis, there's health crisis. But for the entrepreneur, certainly you can start off poorly, but let's face it, you can make mistakes, you can do things in your brand that won't work. So what kind of crisis should someone like our audience, independent contractor, solopreneur, small business owner, they always feel they're in crisis. They're in the whirlwind, right? They're in the chaos. So any suggestions to those folks is how to minimize crisis, deflect crisis?
Absolutely. It starts by understanding it. It starts by understanding that not everything is, in fact, a crisis and alleviating ourselves from the stress of even just that misassociation can create, especially as entrepreneurs. And trust me, I know very well that feeling as an entrepreneur. So understanding and defining for your organization, for your brand, your business, what an issue is versus what a crisis is. And then going to the criteria, defining the criteria or what I call the thresholds that take an incident from issue level to crisis level. So what are those impacts that if these specific things were to be impacted, that it would lend to be a crisis for your company? Everything else is an issue. And so by having those definitions and those understandings and doing a simple exercise where you can identify your high risk scenarios, issue versus crisis, and those thresholds, one, that alleviates a lot of stress. From there, the second step is to better understand or to seek to better understand your stakeholder groups. So successful business is built on relationships. Crisis management is about doing right by those relationships when it matters most. And there's so much that we can do ahead of time. And if we train ourselves to do it ahead of time, it becomes second nature and instinctive and a skill that we can do when we're faced with challenge, with real-time challenge, where we can understand who we serve, how we serve them, what their relationship is in our business, in our brand, what their expectations are of us, how a certain specific situation relates to them and how it impacts them. What are the questions that they'll have? That if we answer those questions before they come to us with those questions, we can get ahead of the story and own the narrative and continue to build and foster trust, even amidst adversity. So there's some specific exercises that you can conduct, especially as a solopreneur or a small business owner, that takes you leaps and bounds in sleeping easier at night and being ready. I always say that crisis readiness is not about having a plan that sits on a shelf stagnantly. That is not the solution. Anybody who had a crisis management plan that sat stagnantly on a shelf prior to COVID at the start of 2020 learned very quickly how little that plan, that stagnant plan, did to actually serve them. So everything that I'm about, everything that Crisis Ready is about and has always been, is about teaching the right mindset, the right skill set, and helping brands build the right capabilities to serve the mindset and the skill set so that it becomes intrinsic and second nature.
Okay, so I follow you. I love the idea of, you mentioned yourself, there's issues and there's crisis, and it's a different element. Now, when you're in the issue that you think is a crisis, also you're so emotionally involved that you're feeling it's a crisis, right? So my audience knows this. I launched this company 13 years ago, and my very first ad, Melissa, don't mock me, don't laugh at me. My very first ad to the market was hire the Massimo Group and your business will soar, with this underlining arrow going to the skies. Now, Melissa, I spelled soar or
no.
S-O-U-R.
That's not even the British way.
Hire the Massimo Group and your business will sour. It's just what turned out to be.
That's hilarious.
I thought that was a crisis. I thought that was going to bring down this idea about building a company. So think about that. Turns out, by the way, a lot of people can't read, and they actually called me and said, I need help. But the point was, it wasn't a crisis. It was an issue I could easily resolve by doing certain things and other things. But that's not what we're talking about. We're talking real crisis.
Hey, this is Rod Santomassimo with The Massimo Show. And oh boy, am I pumped. My new book, Knowing Isn't Doing, well, when it launched, it hit #1. That's right. Top-selling sales book in the entire country on Amazon.com. We're so excited to share many of our proprietary Massimo methods to allow our readers to start finally building that business and the life they've always desired. To get your own copy or learn more, visit www.knowingisn'tdoing.com.
So there's financial crisis, there's people crisis, there's transaction crisis, and it's the crisis you said earlier. So I'm going to pull on this one. You said, by definition, an issue is not a crisis. So if that's the case, Melissa, what defines crisis?
Okay, that's a great question. So I'm going to give you a framework because a crisis for one company does not necessarily translate into a crisis for another. So it's really, really important to understand for your business and for your life. I mean, these are all takeaways that we can take away as human beings as well for us individually. Understand what crisis means to your business. So the framework is a crisis is an event or situation. It doesn't have to be a negative event or situation. It just has to be an impactful event or situation that stops business as usual to some extent, that requires immediate escalation straight to leadership. So if we're talking small business, we're talking the owner of the company that needs to either get out of the meetings, get out of their bed, get off their vacation, and come and manage the situation, put their thought, their strategy, their directives onto the situation, because this situation threatens material impact on people, on the environment, on the business's operations, its reputation, and or its bottom line. So an event that stops business as usual requires immediate escalation straight to the top of leadership because it threatens material impact on people, the environment, operations, reputation, and or bottom line. Whereas an issue doesn't do that. An issue does not stop business as usual. An issue is business as usual on hyperdrive and like the painful part of business as usual. If it's your role and responsibility to tackle that issue, you don't need to take leadership out of their busy day or their night or their vacation because it doesn't threaten material impact.
So how much of this, and I by definition, clear as a bell, right? But I guess the issue is for you and your clients and certainly entrepreneurs, that everything's a crisis, right? I'm like, this is going to kill me. This is going to hurt me. I mean, this is how entrepreneurs in chaos and not, when they're in that land of chaos, they shouldn't be. We help them not get there, but they think everything's a crisis, right? So how do you get your institutions, your clients to recognize issue, crisis?
You have to go through the exercise. Yeah, you have to go through the exercise preemptively beforehand. So for example, if you take one scenario, you think of a scenario that keeps you up at night, that you think if that were to happen, this would destroy my business, we'd be really stopping business as usual to deal with it. Then you take that scenario and you say, when would this be an issue? And when would this actually be a crisis? Same scenario. When would be an issue? When would be a crisis? When you think that through, when you have the answer to that, then you can start to understand the why behind that. So those are the thresholds. So why is it that it went from issue to crisis? What were the defining criteria that you can create a form of a checklist that gives you a better overview of if these things were to be triggered in a given situation, this would mean material impact on people, environment, operations, reputation, and or bottom line. If these things are not triggered, we're dealing with an issue. And the difficult part of this, especially in today's world of virality and sensationalization, is that an issue can go viral and not amount to crisis level. for two reasons. One, because it's still just an issue and it won't stop business as usual. It doesn't threaten that material impact is one reason. The other reason is because you're so crisis ready. You have the skills, you have the mindset, you have the capability to quickly address it, to quickly, effectively respond to it, to quickly de-escalate it and not let it have material impact.
Well, there you go. I think you just said it. Obviously, you're the expert, so you know, but you articulated that it's your ability to de-escalate, to address and de-escalate the situation, whether issue or crisis, that will minimize the impact. That's the key when most people are frozen, right? They're in shock, they're frozen, they're petrified, and what am I going to do? What am I going to do? Right? It's all over. But in fact is, take a step back, use a framework which you shared, and you can find a resolution to almost anything. But you mentioned the word viral, and in this world, cheese and crackers, it seems like everyone's throwing stuff out there on social media, some things that are good, some things that are bad, some things that do affect their brand, they may not even recognize it. So as a crisis expert, specifically with your book, as far as building this brand, any guidelines? Everyone's got to read the book, number one, but is there any suggestions of when it comes to brands, do this, don't do that? Hey, one or two things you say in a framework, just think about this thing first, small steps, move forward.
So I've got a whole bunch of crisis ready rules that are available at crisisready.com as well as in the book. They're throughout the book, actually come from the book for the most part. Things like if you always focus on strengthening relationships, staying in alignment with your core values and strengthening relationships. So in crisis, we can be faced with a lot of different dilemma, right? Where we don't know, there's a bunch of different solutions that are in front of us. We don't necessarily know or have the right information to know which one is the right answer. Which way do we go? Which path do we choose? If you constantly are in check, in alignment with your core values, which is essential, go back on those, you'll lose the people who matter most to your business. And you're always in alignment and focusing on how do we act and communicate. So successful crisis management requires action, and effective communication to happen simultaneously. Cannot successfully manage a crisis by only doing one or the other. You have to do both really, really well and simultaneously. So with that in mind, and you always say, these are the people who matter to the business, that without them, we would not have a business. How do we manage this with our actions and our communications to make sure that they know that they matter to us, that what matters to them matters to us, and that we continue to foster and strengthen trust rather than depreciate from it. If you go into a crisis or an issue, both of them, with this mindset, that's why mindset plays a massive role in crisis ready. That will guide you when you don't have the answers and when you're panicked and you just don't know what to do. Keeping that at the forefront of your mind and always using that as your northern star will always take you in the right direction.
I love it. I can't agree more. Mindset is everything. So important. Relationships, trust. When the pandemic hit, we found that our clients who did the best, turned out their clients reached out to them and said, you're the resource. You've always helped me. We have great relationships. How can I help? And that was true for us too. Our clients reached out to us and said, hey, we need help. And they looked to us as a resource when crisis hit. And that's where you need to be in a relationship. Okay, crisis ready, building an invincible brand in an uncertain world. Everyone's got to get that book. Go get it today. It doesn't matter if you're an entrepreneur by yourself, solopreneur, how you do your clients is critical. It doesn't matter if you're a small group of 3, 4, 5 employees, independent contractors, you got to get this book. But not only the book, Melissa, you shared this thing, you talked about the crisis ready community. What's that?
Yeah. Crisis ready community. So I've been very blessed throughout my career. I've worked across sectors, across industries, private sector, public sector, law enforcement, Fortune 500 companies. And one of the things that struck me is that there did not exist a space for anybody in any seat that plays a role in their organization's crisis readiness can come and share knowledge and experience and challenge status quo, which constantly needs to be challenged and elevated, and just learn together, collaborate together, and support one another. That didn't exist, not for this space. Meanwhile, this is one of the most stressful spaces and roles. Like if you're working within your organization, you're tasked with this, that's foreign to you, right? Where do you go for support and encouragement and not to feel so ostracized and alone? So the crisis ready community is that support system, is that space. It's a safe space for, it doesn't matter if you're in communications, if you're a business owner, if you're in the public sector, the private sector, where you are in the world. It's a space where we come together regularly, virtually. So it's a Slack group where we're constantly just supporting ideas, challenging ideas and also talking about real world events and coming to ask questions with things that we're facing with our clients or with our organizations. And then we also have a monthly mastermind. We have roundtable discussions. We've got a book club. We've got self-care Mondays. It's a space for people who need to manage crisis or prepare for crisis within their organization can come and actually feel like they've got a tribe.
Wow. It sounds invaluable. Amazing. And thank you, Melissa, for your invaluable insights and your time. By the way, folks, if you're wondering, it's Melissa Agnes, Agnes. Go look her up. Go Google her. Get her book. Get it now. You all need this material. Look, if the Pentagon is going to say, hey, we need some help, and they call Melissa, I think they have a lot more crises than we do as small business owners. So let's reach out to Melissa. Let's reach out to the community. Let's all get involved. Melissa, thank you so much for being part of the Massimo Show.
Thank you for having me. This is fun.
Oh, it was fun. Hey, everyone. Like we always say, Melissa shared some knowledge with you how to do things, but guess what? It doesn't really matter until you actually apply them. How do you apply them? Well, in this case, start with her book or go to the community and then start doing, because knowing isn't doing. And Massimo goes, we are doers here. Let's go ahead and do. Till next time, this is Rod Santomassimo with the Massimo Show.
I want to thank you for listening to this version of the Massimo Show. And please go out and share this with your friends, your colleagues. Heck, share it with your dog. Just share it. And more importantly, just give me some feedback, good, bad, or indifferent. We all grow from understanding what our audience wants to hear. So until next time, this is Rod Santomassimo with the Massimo Show.
Hey, this is Rod Santomassimo with the Massimo Group. And did you know over the last 12 plus years, we've worked with thousands of independent contractors, solopreneurs, and small business owners in helping them achieve the business and the life that they've always desired. To learn more how we could possibly help you achieve your goals, please visit www.massimo.coach. That's www.massimo.coach.